This time, would you please rise for the presentation of the colors and the performing of our national anthem?
Present. Colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please post the colors.
Carry. Colors. Ready. Cut. Left or right. Face. Post the colors. Forward. March.
Please remain standing. I'd like to ask Dr. Corey Smith, Senior Pastor, Auburn United Methodist Church, to extend our invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this beautiful day that you've given to us, and we bow our heads today in remembrance of the fallen, those who gave their final breath in service for our country, for freedom, and for our nation's hope and future. Loving Lord, on this particular Memorial Day, our hearts are heavy with grief as we think about the wounds of our country. And Lord, today we pray that you would grant us wisdom and grant us courage for the facing of this hour. Help us rise to the challenges of our time as we seek to love you and to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Send us your spirit and your blessings upon this gathering, upon the meal, upon our conversations, upon our celebrations this day, as we glorify you, as we honor you, and we honor others with our lives. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for your invocation. Thank you, Dr. Powell, for the Auburn University Memorial Day singers, and thank you for the men from our Auburn University Naval ROTC for serving as our color guard. Today's breakfast will be plated, and so the outstanding staff from here at the Auburn University Hotel and Conference Center will be serving your breakfast very soon. Afterwards, we'll begin our program. Thank all of you for making time to be with us today. Please continue to enjoy your breakfast. Again, welcome. And thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for giving up your time on Memorial Day to be a part of this special breakfast. Before we continue, I'd like to recognize some special guests we have with us today, and we're very proud to have them here with us. We have Auburn University's new president, Chris Robbins. Chris Robbins and his wife, Tracy. Thank y'all for being here. Hope you've had 2 good weeks so far. And certainly General Burgess, who's been in Auburn University's central office for a long, long time and been a great help to the new mayor of Auburn. Thank you. We have our state representative, Joe Lovren, is with us. Thanks for coming back from the lake and enjoying us today, Joe. Almost a brand new Lee County Commission member, Ross Morris. I think I saw Ross come in today. Ross, you with us? Thank you, Ross. Our military representative today, our Gunny Ricardo Garcia, who helped us with our Naval ROTC. Thank you, Gunny. Certainly want to recognize Tracy West, who just won her election to remain on our state school board. We're proud of you, Tracy. And the best mayor pro tem in the history of Auburn, Beth Whitten, is with us today as well. Certainly a lot better than the last guy that was mayor pro tem. And we've had a surprise sighting by our former city manager who decided to come back and join us today, Jim Buston. Thank you for being with us today, Jim. Welcome to the 22nd Annual Mayor's Memorial Day Breakfast. I'm honored to stand here before you today, and it's wonderful to see each of you back as we continue this great tradition. So much of our lives has been disrupted over the last 2 years, and this event was certainly no different. But as we've learned to do, we've adapted, and we've found ways to continue honoring our nation's heroes who are so deserving of our time and our attention. In 2020, we pivoted, putting off gathering together for the safety of our community. Instead, we live-streamed a virtual ceremony from the Veterans Memorial at the corner of Ross and Glenn, honoring those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. We were grateful that day to have some of our regular performers, and it made the day the best it could possibly be. And while we didn't have the breakfast again last year, we did gather together in person at the Veterans Memorial for an outdoor ceremony. We had lost several of our community's veterans between 2019 and 2021, including Benny Atkins, Norm Caldwell, Grady Jones, Mike Kozolopoff, Greg Townsend, and Pete Turnham. We honored these men that day by placing posters of each of them around the monument, remembering their impact on our nation and on our community. But finally this year, we're back and able to return to this beautiful hotel at the Auburn University Conference Center and thank all of you for dedicating your time to be here as we remember and honor all that our veterans have done, especially those that are tied here to our community. Today marks the 22nd year that we've gathered for this breakfast on Memorial Day, a tradition that dates back that started with former Mayor Bill Ham in 1999, and I'm proud to continue that tradition today. But the history of Memorial Day stretches far beyond our ceremonies here in Auburn. Originally known as Decoration Day, Memorial Day originated in the years following the Civil War. The Civil War claimed more lives than any conflict in the United States history, and the first national cemeteries were erected to become the final resting place for those soldiers of the Civil War. By the late 1860s, Americans across the country began holding springtime tributes to the countless fallen soldiers of that war. The first official Decoration Day was held on May the 30th, 1868, when General John A. Logan called for a nationwide day of remembrance. On that day, General James Garfield made a speech at the Arlington National Cemetery where 5,000 participants decorated the graves of 20,000 Civil War soldiers that were buried there. Memorial Day did become a federal holiday in 1971, and we continue the traditions of Memorial Day by laying wreaths and raising flags to those that have gone before us. But on that day in 1868, General Garfield said these words, "We do not know one promise these men made, one pledge that they gave, one word that they spoke. But we do know that they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. For love of country, they accepted death and thus resolved all doubts and made immortal their patriotism and their virtue." So today we stop to remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Some of us may know some of these men and women well, while many of us may not. Regardless, each of us is gathered here today to honor and respect in our hearts their courageous acts in defense of our freedoms. I'd like to take a moment to honor those Auburn veterans who have passed since we last gathered. One of those was Sergeant Malcolm Buck Marsh, who was our 2019 Distinguished Veteran. Buck was drafted into the Army in 1943 and served as an infantry rifleman in the 36th Armored Infantry Regiment, 3rd Armored Division, in World War II. After his time in the war, he returned to his home of Florence, Alabama, and ended up moving to Auburn in 1970, where he lived until he passed away in January of this year. We thank Buck for his service, and we remember him today. While Memorial Day is a time for us to remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our country, we take time today to also honor those who have served and currently serve in the U.S. military here in our community. Each year at this event, we recognize 2 veterans who serve our country with honor and distinction. I'm proud to announce this year's honorees, who you will learn more about later in the program. The recipient of this year's Auburn Heroes Remember Award is Grady Jones, a Marine who served in Vietnam and a beloved Auburn police officer who invested greatly in our community's young people. And we're proud to have Dr. James E. Whitty, the recipient of the 2022 Distinguished Veterans Award, here with us today. Thank you, Dr. Whitty, for your 26 years of service to our nation and for the impact you've made on higher education here in the loveliest village on the Plains. So again, I want to thank each of you for being here today, and I'd like to extend a special thanks to the Auburn Veterans Committee, whose names are listed on the back of your program, and our economic development staff for all the work they put in to making this event special each year. I want to say especially thank you to Andrea Mitchell for her hard work. Happy Memorial Day to each one of you. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Navy retired Captain Puck Esposito, who will give an update on the Auburn Veterans Scholarship and recognize the recipients of it. Puck?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Puck Esposito. I have the privilege of being the director of the Veterans Resource Center here at Auburn University, as well as an active member of the Auburn Veterans Committee. I am humbled by the crowd this morning. I look around, I see a lot of distinguished guests, visitors, men and women who support not only the Veterans Resource Center, but veterans in general in our great city. I'd like to again extend some special welcome to Dr. and Mrs. Roberts, as well as General Burgess, the mayor, and Dr. Whitty. And for those of you who are keeping score, they in fact are all of my bosses. So it's eval time, everybody knows that. Anyway, as the mayor alluded to, the Mayor's Memorial Day breakfast has been held here at Auburn since 1999 and has been a big part when we take a moment to thank the men and women who at one point in their lives raised their right hand and dedicated themselves to the defense of our Constitution, our country, and our neighbors. Yeah, that's right. There's only one service. We know what it is. It is eval season, and I did not mean to say that. Maybe I should start over. Okay. Anyway, let's get to it. So, again, thank you all for being here. The Veterans Council, as you know, we are finally getting back up to speed once we could get together again, and this was our first event, and we're excited to have it go. Over the time that we've been gone where we couldn't meet in person, we have continued to work hard to do what we can to support our veterans. And one of those things that we do is our scholarships. And we have managed, through the generosity of some individuals in here, to raise a lot of money where we can offer 4 scholarships here at Auburn and 1 scholarship this year at Southern Union. We have 4 scholarship recipients at Auburn University. I think some of our members are here. The ones that aren't, I will get to. But 4 scholarship recipients were Bailey Golub, Dean Lee, James Gomer, and George Martin. I'll tell you that Bailey wanted to be here this morning, but believe it or not, she couldn't because she is out on drill weekend. So that is some dedication right there to one of our recipients. Another one of our recipients is George Martin. Is he here today, Chief? Are you here? I'll have him stand up. That is Chief George Martin. Chief Petty Officer Martin enlisted in the Navy in 2012 out of Brushton, New York. He has served as in the IT world, mostly in the Pacific Fleet on 2 ships, the USS Kane, as well as the USS Meyer out of Pearl Harbor. Yes, some people do get stationed there. Chief Martin was selected through a commission from the Seaman Admiral program, and is currently the Chief Petty Officer down here at the ROTC unit. He is in his senior semester where he is majoring in information software engineering, and he will serve, once he gets his commission, in as an informational personnelman in May of 2023. So congratulations to you, Chief. He is joined here today by his wife of 6 years, Terry. We know you're doing all the hard work, so thank you for all of that. Also with us today, I believe we have our other recipient, James Gomer. Is he here? I know he was supposed to be. Where's James? There he is. James is originally from Prattville, Alabama, and before coming to Auburn, he served in the Army as a combat medic. He's now working towards completing his degree in fitness, conditioning, performance, and wants to go on to be a collegiate strength and conditioning coach. So congratulations to you, James. Each scholarship this year is $2,000, and those were our 4 scholarship winners from Auburn. And I know I didn't see him. I don't know if Rosario is here yet. Rosario, were you here? A recipient from Southern Union this year is Hayden Thompson. Hayden will receive his associate's degree in May of 23, and then come on here to Auburn. He joined the National Guard in December of 2018 and has deployed to Syria and Iraq. And I think he's here with his wife, Shelby, this morning. I did not see if you are. There he is. Okay, Shelby there. You have to stand up, too. No? All right, so he's also receiving a scholarship of $2,000. The committee has also has a scholarship for a Purple Heart recipient. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. This year there is no one who has been eligible for that, but we do know that the university supports our Purple Heart recipients, and we are a Purple Heart city, county, and state. So thank you to everybody who is involved with that. We've been able to sustain these scholarships through the generosity of the Lamar family. I know Colonel Lamar started this years ago when he started the committee. Their support of our program and our scholarships program is what has been enabling us to maintain this throughout the years. I know the Lamar family is here somewhere, so if you just stand your hand up so we can say thank you right there. I know Andy Jr. is here, so thank you, sir, for all your support. We're moving on to our Auburn Heroes Remembered, and this is an individual we recognize who has subsequently passed away, but was a distinguished veteran in our community. And this year we will be honoring Corporal Grady Jones. There isn't a person in Auburn, if you've been here for a little bit of time, that hasn't either met or been around Grady Jones. I'll tell you a personal story. When I got here in 2013, I was still in uniform, and Grady came by with a few of the gentlemen in the red jackets, and we talked for a little bit. And at the end, he comes up, and as only Grady could with that little grin of his, and he grabbed my hand, and he said, "Yeah, it's too bad you're from New York and that your mama didn't let you join the Marine Corps. But I think you'll be fine." I was like, "Well, thanks, sir." He's like, "Yeah, okay." And I was really disappointed. I was like, "Oh, what did I do? I didn't know." In any case, but that led to a very long friendship and some good meals and some good times with the gentleman here in the red jacket serving as served in the Marine Corps. And I enjoyed Grady's company more than you can imagine. He used to come and speak to our ROTC students, and he was just a mainstay in our organization. And what I subsequently learned later on, that he was a mainstay in the community, because when he finished serving in Vietnam, he wasn't done serving. He came back to his community and said, "I still have more to give." And in doing so, he gave back as a local police officer for years. And it was a pleasure just to know him and to be able to hang around him the little bit that I did. And, well, I'll read his official bio, and then you can watch the video. So Grady was a member of our Auburn's Veteran Committee, and he initially joined the Marines in July 1968 and attended infantry training in advanced jungle warfare. He then volunteered for scout dog training and subsequently served in South Vietnam. The dogs and their handlers saved many lives, as everybody knows, finding mines and hidden caches, ambushes, booby traps, anything. But he was out protecting his shipmates. Grady returned to Auburn and was a police officer for the city of Auburn for more than 25 years. And he was also the one that brought the DARE program to our city schools. So if we get a moment now, can we look at the video and catch up with the family at the end?
Corporal Grady Jones was born in Falls Church, Virginia on May 23, 1947. The son of a military family, Grady lived in many places before settling in Auburn in 1961. A football player for the Auburn High School Tigers, Grady graduated from Auburn High School. He spent 1 year at Livingston College before he decided to enlist with the Marine Corps in 1968. Grady made it through recruit training at Parris Island, then went to Camp Lejeune for infantry training. While in Camp Lejeune, the Marines were looking for 22 volunteers to become dog handlers. Grady, who had always had a dog growing up, was eager to volunteer. He was selected and went to Fort Benning for training. Grady served as a scout dog handler in Vietnam from July to November of 1969. He was paired with a dog named Inky, who had been in Vietnam for 2 years before Grady arrived. Grady and Inky walked point, searching for potential hazards that were buried, such as mines, tripwires, ambushes, and punji pits. Grady's first assignment was to go north to the Vandergrift Combat Base. They were preparing to start an operation called Georgia Tar. At that time, the area around Quang Tri, Dong Ha, and Rock Pile was taking a lot of fire. His battalion was sent out to search for where it was coming from and try to clear them out. The first afternoon out on assignment, Grady and Inky were on point as they dredged through elephant grass. Inky was on a 25-foot leash in front of Grady and suddenly stopped. Grady called Inky back and told him to keep going, but when Inky stopped a second time, Grady knew he had found something. They discovered a booby trap a few feet ahead of Inky going across the trail, a thin tripwire attached to mortar rounds and explosives. Later that afternoon, Inky kept them from hitting an anti-personnel mine, saving so many Marines' lives in one day. Grady and Inky were often out at night on a listening post, taking advantage of Inky's exceptional hearing to pick up any movement nearby. While having a dog with him gave Grady a bit of an advantage, it was a dangerous position as he had to keep his eyes solely on Inky, not on his surroundings. Because of that, Grady traveled with a bodyguard and a Navy hospital corpsman. Though Grady didn't expect to come back to the States so soon, the 3rd Marine Division that he was a part of was pulled out, and he went back to Camp Lejeune. Grady left the Marines and returned to Auburn, where he began a career with the Auburn Police Department. Grady played a large role in pioneering many programs that the Auburn Police Department still carries out today, most notably the DARE program. Grady brought the National DARE program to Auburn, working closely with Auburn City Schools to teach drug prevention to Auburn's 5th and 6th graders. Grady also started the Summer DARE Camp for graduating 5th graders, giving students a chance to connect before entering 6th grade and to learn more about public safety in Auburn with the help of other police officers, firefighters, and community volunteers. Grady was president of the Alabama DARE Officer Association in 1995 and helped equip officers from other police departments across the Southeast to start their own DARE programs. Before the department had dedicated school resource officers, Grady was assigned to the schools protecting Auburn's children. Grady's love for dogs continued into his time with the Auburn Police Department, where he helped start the K-9 program. He played a part in starting the department's neighborhood watch efforts, and he was one of the first members of the motorcycle unit. Grady regularly represented the department in speaking engagements at different civic groups, churches, schools, and other organizations, and he even doubled as McGruff, the crime-fighting dog. He served as a hostage negotiator for the SWAT team for more than 15 years, during which he helped peacefully resolve hostage situations, including a more than 20-hour negotiation that took place in 1989. Grady retired from the Auburn Police Department after 28 years, but he didn't stop serving the Auburn community. He was an active member of the Billy Stepflug detachment of the Marine Corps League, attending all the City of Auburn's Memorial Day and Veterans Day services, and participating in community outreach efforts. He was an active member of the Auburn Veterans Committee for years and was a member of Parkway Baptist Church. We honor Grady for the outstanding Marine, police officer, and leader he was. For all these reasons, we are proud to honor him as the 2022 Hero Remembered.
There are members of Grady's family here today. If you would make your way up to the front, please. Come on, I don't bite. We even let Marine families up.
You better watch out. Grady's watching you, Pup.
I know.
You better watch out.
All right,
All right.
hold on, come on over.
All right, let me come on this side.
Sir?
This plaque reads, Auburn Heroes Remembered in grateful appreciation to Corporal Grady Jones, USMC, Auburn, Alabama, May the 30th, 2022.
I think all of you that know Grady know that he would be so humbled and so proud. He loved this community, and he would do anything that he could do to be part of this community and you know, work with the kids. It just meant the world to him, and y'all all know all this. So, thank you so much. There you go.
Thank you for all of that. Again, I want to thank, if we give a round of applause to all of our scholarship recipients for this year. And another special thanks to the Auburn Veterans Committee for all that we're doing, and a very special thanks to the Lamar family. Your continued support for our organization and this community is never ending, and we're able to give back to our veterans because you continue to give to us. So thank you for everything that you've done for us, and for all that you're going to continue to do for our veterans here in the local community. Okay, as you know, I've never met a microphone I didn't love, but it's time for me to turn this over to Lieutenant Commander Sam Nichols, who's going to get you on as somebody who actually has some things important to say with Dr. Whitty. So, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Puck. I'd like to thank everybody for coming this morning also, and I'd like to reiterate our appreciation to Andy Lamar and Lucy, their family, for raising so much money over the years for our scholarship. For years, they hosted an event called the Kevin Bell Blast and Cast, and after they fully funded the Kevin Bell Scholarship, they changed the name to honor Colonel Andy Lamar, who was a founding member of the Veterans Committee, professor of military science at Auburn, an amazing man. And Andy has picked up in his wake and has fully funded our scholarship for so many years and years to come. So thank you so much. I'd also like to reiterate the mayor's welcome to General Ron Burgess, the 2006 Distinguished Veteran Award here in Auburn, and the 2017 Distinguished Veteran Staff Sergeant Kerry Owen. Thank you for being here, sir. At this point in the program, I normally introduce the Service Academy appointees from our area. Unfortunately, this year, there were no Service Academy appointees, but in the last couple of years, we have had a couple from Auburn High School. Justin Torres received an appointment a couple years ago. He's up at West Point. And last year from Auburn High, we had a couple of football recruits. Kicker Matthew Rhodes is up at West Point, and David Hickson is on the line in Annapolis, so we appreciate them. At this point, I'd also like to say, normally Dick Phelan, for every mayor's breakfast, has been up here and has spoken. Unfortunately, today he couldn't be here. He sends his regrets. He's over in enemy territory over in Athens, Georgia, at a family obligation, and he looks forward to being here next year and all the future years to come. I'd also like to thank, at this point, the undying support of Philip Dunlap and his Economic Development Group from Auburn. They support our Veterans Committee directly. I'd like to thank Ben McGee for keeping the flags flying at the Veterans Monument. Thank the Marine Corps League for maintaining the fence and their support over there at the monument. And Cynthia Williford Bean, who does our videos for us. She does a fantastic job, and we really appreciate the job you do, Cynthia. Thank you. But of course, most of all, and every year, the person who absolutely works the hardest to make this event a success is Andrea Mitchell. So Andrea, where are you? It's always hard to find. Over there? Stand up. Okay. Oh, way in the corner. And shifting gears, we now change to our recognizing our distinguished veteran for this year. So please show the video.
Lieutenant Colonel James E. Whitty was born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. In 1964, he was drafted into the U.S. Army. Following his officer candidate school commission and flight school training, he flew helicopters in Vietnam from 1968 through 1971.
So he had a tour or two in Vietnam, flying helicopters, ran a depot to repair helicopters when they had heavy maintenance needed, and spent a fair amount of time in country there and got shot at more than once, I'm sure. But he has a lot of secrets that a lot of people probably don't know about.
His military service included tours in Central and South America, Europe, and Japan. A graduate of the Defense Language Program in Modern Standard Arabic, he also had several tours in the pre-Desert Storm Middle East. Whitty retired from the military service in 1990 after completing 26 years of active service. His awards and medals included 29 Air Medals, 2 Bronze Stars, Pakistani Army Aviator Wings, and the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry. After retiring, Whitty earned a Ph.D. in adult education from the University of South Florida. His academic areas of interest included training program development and evaluation and the mechanics of how learning is assessed. In 1999, Whitty came to Auburn and began as the only faculty member in Auburn University's adult education program. Under his stewardship, the program has expanded into a nationally recognized and internationally active entity. Capitalizing on his education and flying experience, Whitty was appointed as the chair of Auburn's Aviation Management Program in 2020. On February 4, 2022, the Auburn University Board of Trustees declared the aviation program as a School of Aviation, and Whitty was appointed as the School of Aviation Director, a position he holds today. Whitty is internationally recognized as a leader in the adult and continuing education field and was inducted into the Adult Education Hall of Fame in 2020.
I have rarely found somebody who has been here at Auburn that doesn't know about Jim Whitty, and especially what he did with the adult education program and now what he's doing with the aviation school.
Well, he's a visionary, so he knows how to take an idea and then lead the organization to achieving that idea. So he did that in adult education. He came up, with the idea for that program. He implemented it over many years.
Oh my goodness, the impact at Auburn University is really hard to, well, there's some ways to measure that, but it's lasting impact for generations as he has impacted so many different people. And if I'm not mistaken, he holds the record for the most doctoral students that have been hooded here.
There was an admiral I worked kind of for one time said that, there's a reason they call it the armed services. Service is what we are doing. There's lots of ways you can serve your community, serve your country. And he certainly exemplifies that. His service as a career Army officer for many years, coming into higher education and serving in that way to help mold young minds, to help young people become professionals in their own discipline. And then even within our program here, he didn't have to stay on and come take on this job, but he saw a need. His skill set is another way for him to serve and provide to the Auburn University and the aviation department school here.
A couple years ago, we started sponsoring a couple of our young ladies in the program to fly in the Air Race Classic. First year we did that was before Dr. Whitty came on board, but then the last two he has been on board. And we had a pep rally, if you will, out in the open area out here before the, as you walk into the FBO. And we had the Auburn cheerleaders over here, we had Albee here, but the biggest cheerleader of all was Jim Whitty. And he has not quit doing that. He is a cheerleader for everything we do, whether it's things like that, whether it's signing up another airline to help us out like United just did last month. He's at the forefront of that and is the biggest cheerleader for everything we do and leads the way on that. So he definitely leads by example.
Well, often it's said that you can tell someone's a leader whether or not they'll be able to lead anybody. Is anybody following them? And clearly he is. He has he instills confidence in people, and he sets a direction. He gives his folks, faculty and staff and School of Aviation flexibility to make decisions and supports them when they do. I think his leadership style is one of empowering people.
I'd say he's definitely a, not to sound cliche, but kind of falls under the Renaissance man kind of description. Somebody that has a lot of experience, has a lot of life experiences, loves sharing those experiences, but is very colorful in the sense of those experiences. And what I mean, again, is a broad background of doing a lot of different types of things in the military and doing them well, and then moving into a second career in higher education. And as I kind of briefly mentioned before, had done construction work. He's a blacksmith, he's an artist. He has a liberal arts degree, so loves to throw out some Beowulf quotes and some other things around there to keep everybody on their toes. I guess if you're looking for a welder and a blacksmith that can quote Beowulf while flying an airplane and speaking 5 different languages, you found your person. And so that's Whitty in a nutshell.
Well, since we're talking about Memorial Day and veterans, I think that all the things I've been talking about with Jim Whitty, also a lot of that came from his experience in the military. He had a long and very successful career in the Army, but that experience as a soldier, as an officer in the Army, as an aviator in the Army, I think did a great deal to help him do what he's doing now. He has a love of aviation, and that's certainly helpful if you're going to run this school the way it ought to be run.
Well, Dr. Whitty is always somebody, as an individual, always wants to leave you smiling. It may be a funny story that he leaves you with, or just a friendly handshake. And that is a wonderful thing, I think, to say about somebody, that when they leave the room, you felt better having been in the room with them.
Whitty's service as a veteran and as an educator has impacted countless individuals across the globe, and we are honored to present him with this year's Distinguished Veterans Award.
Last year we weren't last 2 years, we weren't able to have the breakfast breakfast with everybody in person. So Dr. Whitty graciously accepted to be our speaker at the Memorial Day online service last year at the monument. And so I got to hear him speak, and ladies and gentlemen, you're in for a real treat. So Lieutenant Colonel Whitty, the floor is yours.
General Burgess pointed out earlier that a helicopter pilot and his coffee are not far separated. And I thought I'd bring my cup up here. He's right. We do that. I want to thank everybody who had the consideration to talk to me and invite me. It's truly an honor. It's not something that you strive for. It's just something that happens. I don't know where they rounded up all those people in that movie, but I know I'm going to have to spend a lot of money on lunches now. And I want to give a particular thanks to this little table over here. It says the Whitty family. These folks essentially are the backbone of the office that I hold out at the airport, and they're my work family. I don't have much family left. Most of them have died off, so they've been replaced by people like those at that table. And that's 90% of what I've done good has come from them. So I want to start out with recognizing you. I wasn't sure what to say at this gathering, and so I asked. I said, what should I talk about? And I was told, oh, it's easy, just talk about your military service. And I thought, oh yeah, that's all you want to hear about, sure. I divided it into two sections. One, my military service, where we dealt with coping mechanisms, things we did to adapt and to prosper. And the second half deals with what this Memorial Day is really about. So with your permission and indulgence, my military service began when I was expelled from The Ohio State University. It's true. I was thrown out so quick you couldn't believe it. I ran out of athletic scholarship and GPA all in the same quarter, and they made it very clear I had no place there. So, like any young man at the time, I had a choice. And I did. I ran away. Not to Canada. No. But see, I'd lost my scholastic deferment, which meant I was eligible for the draft. I couldn't go to Canada. My father was a World War II veteran. He was wounded outside of St. Lo. Rehab, joined his unit, went on through Nancy and on up to Bastogne. He was a hell of a combat soldier. He rose to the rank of PFC, by the way. And much like his son, he lost his stripe and got it back. That's the kind of family I come from. So anyway, I was out in California, worked for Litton Industries, was paid more money than I believed a young man should ever have been paid. So unlike most young men, I invested, and I invested wisely. I bought a motorcycle like you wouldn't believe. It had 8 hangers, a ping pad, sissy bar, extended front end. It was powered by this Harley-Davidson engine. No muffler, no baffles, straight pipes. It was beautiful. It brought me more tickets than you can imagine. I think I ended up supporting the Los Angeles City, County, and State Highway Patrol of California. Out there, they'll ticket you for things you won't believe. I simply drove between a truck and a car on the expressway, boom, right between them. It was cool, boom, boom, boom. I got ticketed for that. Passing on the right side. You're not allowed to do that either. I figure if you had room, you went for it. But my favorite ticket was on Hollywood Boulevard. Remember the Chianti wine bottles? They had a fiber wrapping around them and you could hang them up. Well, I did. I hung them on my handlebars, going down Hollywood Boulevard. Policeman pulled me over and told me, son, you cannot drink and ride. I said, well, sir, I'm not drinking and riding. See, the only time I drink is at a stop sign or a red light. And he wasn't too happy with that either. I think the thing that saved me is I finally got my draft notice. And I became a willing conscript. It was a great time. 2-year obligation, that's all I had. And that's all I wanted to do was get out and go back to that life of depravity in California. In basic training, they told 4 of us that we had qualified for a thing called OCS, Officer Candidate School. And our lieutenant company commander called us in, and he was so nice. He gave us coffee. He showed us a movie. He talked about how I never heard this guy talk like that before. He told us how wonderful it would be to become an officer. And you'd incur about another 15 years obligation or some other ridiculous thing. So I asked him, I said, sir, does this mean we'll get to be an officer just like you? And he said, that's right, Whit. First place, he didn't even know my name. And I told him, I don't want any part of that. And he said, get out of my office. Sort of like a conversation with General Burgess, you know, Whitty, get out of my office. Okay, I'm going. Bottom line, I went on to serve, and it worked out real well. I got to where I liked the Army thing. I went over to Germany for a psychological assignment to a psychological warfare unit, small unit operation. I learned there that I like small unit operations. I don't like parade grounds. I don't like large groups of soldiers all marching around. I don't do that very well. But in a psychological warfare unit, it was interesting. I actually I came over as an E4, right? E4. In Germany, I went from E4 to E3 to E4 to E5. I had a little reversal there for a while because we'd gone to a beer fest in Sindelfingen. We came back late. We snuck in the gate. We ran across the motor pool. The guards are hollering, halt, halt, and we ran. And next morning, they took away a stripe. It was Germany. It was okay. I got it back. While I was there, I decided officers walk around. We dug holes in the ground, and we ran up and down hills, and an officer would come along and say, soldier, that's a fine hole you just dug. And then he'd walk away. You know, what the hell is this? I knew I wanted to be one of them. So I applied to Officer Candidate School. This time I went. Got a commission as a second lieutenant. Halfway through it, they said, anyone want to be a pilot? And I said, I do. And they said, okay, you can go be a pilot. What I didn't tell them was, I'd been a pilot for 10 years before I ever applied to become an Army helicopter pilot. It was great sport. I went through primary, I got to Fort Rucker, and I got bored. I mean, really bored. I could fly, I flew very, very well, but weather and navigation, I'd been doing it for years. Boring. So I did what any bored service member would do. I bought another motorcycle. This time a 250cc Ducati 5-speed scrambler. Wing, 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 off it went. And there was a dirt track down there we could race on the weekends. Army found out I was racing motorcycles. They didn't like it. So I had to go see this major. He's a nice guy, but he talked funny. Called me Lieutenant Witt. The Army did that a lot. Couldn't pronounce my name. So anyway, I reported to the major, and the major said, Lieutenant, never forget this guy, Lieutenant, you cannot race motorcycles. I said, excuse me, sir. But see, I've been doing it now for quite a long time, and I'm pretty good at it. I can race motorcycles. Boo, through the roof, the major goes, Witt, you will not race motorcycles. You will not race go-karts, bicycles, stock cars, or anything else that races. Do you understand? To which I said, yes, sir, I understand, and he dismissed me. So that took away my motorcycle racing. I was still bored. They had a flight school for gliders, airplanes without an engine. And that fascinated me. So I ran over to the airport, and pretty soon I hooked up behind a tow plane, whoo, cut loose, flying around without a motor. Loved it. And the Army found out. Right back in front of the same major again. Lieutenant, you will not fly gliders, you will not fly balloons, you will not fly single engine, you will not fly multi-engine, you will only fly the helicopters that we give you. Is that clear? I said, yes, sir, it's clear. Thank you very much. I left. The thing to save me is I graduated, and I did pretty well in flight school, I think, because they sent me to a maintenance officer test pilot school. That's not bad for a lieutenant. I said, no, here I am flying test flights. And I enjoyed that. You push the aircraft to its limits, learned a lot about flying doing that. And after I learned that, they sent me to Vietnam, 1968. Me and the Tet Offensive came in at the same time. That was exciting. A lot of flying time. A lot of flying time. But on the ground was worse. Our cantonment area down at Vinh Long, my little Quonset hut, got shrapnel 3 times from mortar attacks, twice with me in it. First time I devised a plan, so I hung a flight suit on a nail next to my bunk. If the mortar rounds came in, I'd fall off of my bunk, I'd grab my flight suit, I'd get dressed on the floor, put on my boots, and run out the door to the bunker. It was a great plan. Second time I got mortared, big chunk came through the wall, went all the way through the room, on the other side. Didn't hit anybody. But I rolled out, I grabbed my flight suit, I put it on, I'm laying on the floor. And that's why I laid on the floor. I didn't get up. And Al Lydon, a fellow aviator, came running by and he says, Captain, are you hit? I said, no. He said, are you all right? I said, no. Al kicked my door in. Magnificent little plywood door. Blam, he ruined it. He dropped down beside me and said, where are you hit? I said, I'm not hit. He said, what's wrong? I said, Al, I can't get my zipper up. Flight suits have big zippers. I couldn't get it to work. Al brought me to reality. He used words I've never heard in the Bible, and he indicated I should be leaving to go to the bunker, so I did. Fixed my zipper in the bunker. Everything was okay then. That was about it. I came out in 68 for a little while, went back in, 70 and 71, finally came out. I hadn't graduated from college yet. Personnel officer called me in just before I left Vietnam, and he said, Whitty, he said, you want to stay in the Army? I said, yeah. He said, well, you need a regular Army commission. And I said, well, I don't have a degree. He said, that's okay. He had 2 stacks of paper. This stack says, this is your application for a regular Army commission, and you have a bootstrap assignment pending. I didn't have a bootstrap assignment. He says, yes, you do. That's this stack. This stack says you want to go to bootstrap, and you have a regular Army commission pending. Neither one was pending. They were sitting right there on the desk. Bootstrap was your opportunity to go back and finish a degree. So they set them off. Sure enough, I left Vietnam, went to University of Nebraska, was working on my baccalaureate, and I got down a package from Washington that said you put on your war clothes and stand in front of a flag and somebody swear you in, and you are now a regular Army officer. I thought, dude, this is great. No chance of reduction in force. I'm in. Funny part was, thinking back on it, I actually had a regular Army commission before I had a baccalaureate. That was a fluke. But I learned about the Army. You can do fluky things in the Army. And we continued. I graduated, went on, I went back to that same school where I'd learned how to test fly. I did that for a while, then the Army sent me to more schooling. Army was good about sending me to schooling. I figured I needed a lot of it. Went out to California to a thing called Defense Language Institute. I've always had an affinity for languages. They come easy. I was just sharing with someone earlier that even in Vietnam, you'd be on the radios, hear helicopter, and just, if you thought Charlie was listening, you send out a message, you say, Tui di lai now kalakbo. And everybody say, woo, what that? It says, that's Vietnamese. It means, I'm going to the officers club. And it just mess them up. That's all you want to do. Anyway, they sent me this modern standard Arabic. I said, how hard could it be? And God, I learned that quickly. The Defense Language Institute was the most rigorous education I've ever received in my life, far more strenuous than my PhD, unashamedly. 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, total immersion in the Arabic language, and when we finished, I could pick up an El Haram newspaper. I could tell you what it said in English. I could take a New York Times and tell you what it said in Arabic. That was part of our graduation requirements. Not bad for a year's worth of being immersed. Anyway, I was on orders to Saudi Arabia. Been studying Arabic, go to Saudi Arabia. It was a company tour. I could bring my wife and my son. Everybody was happy. They sent me to more schooling at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base en route, and while I was up there, I got notification that apparently some Israeli pilot had flown into Saudi Arabian airspace, so it was no longer safe for me to take my family to Saudi Arabia, and I got to take them to a lovely garden spot in the Middle East called Tehran, Iran. That was 78. I think most of us remember 1979 in Tehran. The 444 days actually began in October. The embassy was seized previously. I got my family out in late January, early February. The embassy was taken in February. I was up north part of Tehran. They released the embassy back. I got a phone call at my house. It said, Woody, if you can get over to Mehrabad Airport, there's a 141. Get on it and get out. So I packed 2 suitcases. I had an Iranian car. They issued me a Paycon, little Iranian car, kind of cute, worthless really, but it made you look local when you were driving around, which was cool. Got my little Paycon. I wrapped a scarf around me, Greek fisherman's hat, gloves, a leather jacket, and I'm hauling. Boom, boom. I go up to the Shiad Monument, and they're rioting. Couldn't get through. I went around to the opposite side of the Mehrabad Airport. That's where the Iranians kept their stockpiles and other things. And I pulled up to the gate, and the Iranian guard looked at me. I gave him my get-out-of-jail card. Under the Shah's regime, there are a few of us got these little cards that says, leave him alone, he ain't hurting anything, let him go. So I showed that to the guard, and he ran inside to know what to do with it. And I took off. I went around his barrier. I went through some barrels. I got into this warehouse area and pulled right up to the active runway at Mehrabad Airport, and there was nothing happening. No airplanes coming, no airplanes going. I saw the 141 cross the runway. On my side of the runway were a couple tanks at the end of it and a couple of machine gun nests. I thought, ooh, that's weird. So I drove across the runway at Mehrabad Airport. No radio control, no nothing. Just looked and drove. I pulled up near that 141. I jumped out. I threw my keys on the seat, ran to the aircraft with 2 suitcases. Crew chief came out, asked for ID. I showed him. They put me on the aircraft. It was filled with people being evacuated. I mean, I was the last guy to get on it. They put me on the floor of the 141 with my back up against suitcases and tied me down with a cargo strap because we were rolling. There were no seats. Once we got airborne, crew chief came back and says, Colonel, you want to ride up front with the crew? I said, I'd appreciate that. And I drove up on the flight deck, sat there and rode all the way into Greece. Whew. I'm out of Iran. Haven't been back there since. That was kind of fun. I finally worked my way back to the States. I went on to the Command General Staff College, and at that time there was a guy there named Butch Saint. He was the commandant of the Command General Staff College. He's an old armor officer, good guy, really good guy. I don't know if you remember Butch Saint. I was in class. I'm in class as a diligent student. All of a sudden, General State comes in. Everybody jumps up to attention. He said, Whitty, come out here. And I went out there. I thought, oh, God, I'm in trouble again. And General Saint looked at me. He says, you'll have your order shortly, but you're going to be working for me. I said, what am I going to do? And he said, you'll work for me. Turned around and walked away. That was our conversation. Like, damn. At least I know where I'm going to go when I graduate. Well, I did. I stayed on as an instructor at Command General Staff College. Now, I think most of us knew Sergeant Major Benny Atkins, right? You know, Sergeant Major Atkins was a Opelika native, Congressional Medal of Honor winner. But you know that Opelika produced a Medal of Honor winner before Benny Atkins? This guy named Bobby Howard. Bob Howard's home was Opelika. Now, when Bob retired, he was retired at Fort Hood, and he never came back home. Bob was kind of odd. So they paired us up, me and Bob, and we taught small unit tactical logistics. And tacticus for small units. You know, the 4 or 5 guys that run back where the enemy are. My job was easy. Tactical logistics for small units, very simple. I'd tell my class, if you see a chicken, eat a chicken. And that was the total logistics information I had to give them. And I tell the class, I said, okay, now that you've got that down, Pat, let's get down and do a few laps of the airfield. So we'd leave Bell Hall, run down to the airfield, and run around it 3 or 4 times. It was fun. They caught me doing that, made me stay in the classroom. Anyway, I left there. Went down to a place called MacDill, Readiness Command, assigned at Tampa, Florida. I said, man, I love living in Tampa, Florida. I spent my whole tour in Central and South America. I never made it back to Tampa. A lot of my assignments were like that. They put you one place and make you go to work someplace else. Had a switch out. A fellow in Panama was going to take my job in Honduras, so I was going down and take his job in Panama. He was on a C-130 coming up to relieve me so I could go back. His aircraft went down. All souls on board were lost. That drove it home. I ended up going down to Panama anyway. Had a good tour. While I was there, I went down to Argentina. I taught in the Argentinian General Staff College down there. I told you I was pretty good at languages. I picked up Spanish real easy. So here I am down there, one of the few gringos in the whole school, and then the Malvinas went down. There's a bunch of worthless little islands out here that the Brits and the Argentinians decided to fight over. It was not a good time to be an American in Buenos Aires because they understood that the Americans were supporting the British and they were fighting the British. So in essence, we were fighting forces working against them, and we weren't too popular, so I called up and said, what should I do? And they said, go to Montevideo. I got an airboat, one of those little air taxi things. Went over to Montevideo. I checked in daily for about a week. In the meantime, once I'd check in, they'd say, stay there. So I'd dine, I'd sleep. I got into antiques. Montevideo, Uruguay has some beautiful antiques. And then they finally decided I was living too good, and they said, Whitty, going back to Panama. I said, okay, I'm out of here. Left Panama, got married en route to Japan. That's, what, Maria, 34 years ago? 35 next month, yeah. Same woman, guys. There I am. It was really the wrong thing to do. I married this young woman and took her to a foreign country where she didn't know the language or the culture. And I figured, if she makes it through a 3-year tour here, I probably got a pretty solid marriage, you know, and she made it. It's been solid ever since. So for those of you who are single, I advise you in 2 categories. One, marry a woman smarter than you are, and for most of you, that won't be hard to do. Second thing I want you to do, marry a younger woman. That's your retirement plan. That was my retirement plan. And here I am, 80 plus years old, and I'm still working. That part did not come true. So it works out good. That's how we dealt with stress, at least in my career. And none of those things that I've shared with you have much to do with Memorial Day, do they? What it has to do with Memorial Day is in 1968, Sergeant Wimp, Sergeant T, and Sergeant Early. Sergeant T was their interpreter. These were friends I had at a little MACV camp down in the 4th Corps. It was a ceasefire day. They used to do that in Vietnam. Today's a ceasefire day. We will shoot no one and no one will shoot us. Man, if you can do it for one day, you ought to be able to do it for a year. That never happened. So we're on a ceasefire day. There was movement outside the camp, so Sergeant Wimp, Sergeant Early took tea with them, and they were ambushed in a rice paddy. All three of them killed on a ceasefire day. They are people who should be memorialized, far, far above their call of duty. Another vivid remembrance, down south of Canto, flying single ship. We got a call that a bird dog had gone down. We were closest to the crash. We went over there, landed, thought we could get a survivor, and we couldn't. The pilot in that aircraft died on impact. It was a muddy rice field. The thing I remember is all the mud had splattered everywhere. This guy had mud on his arms and his fingers on the left hand, but there was absolutely no mud on his wedding band. It was just as shiny as if it were brand new. I could not explain it to this day. I can't explain it now. But there's a candidate for your memorial service. And there were others. OCS classmate, Bob Weiss, put a Mohawk down. He and the observer were both killed. Bob was actually recovered by another OCS classmate a long time ago. These are the people that represent Memorial Day for me. The men and the women who are no longer with us, who've given that supreme sacrifice. They deserve our honor. They deserve our recognition. And God forbid we would ever forget about them. And as long as we continue doing what we're doing here, they will not be forgotten. So again, this memorial tribute is not about me. And God hope you never think of it that way. It's about the men and women with whom I've served and those who are no longer with us. That's who this is about. I want to thank you all for your patience. That's about all I have to offer. And Mr. Mayor. Thank you, sir.
I got something to give you.
Anything to give me?
They're gonna clap for you first. This plaque will read, the Auburn Distinguished Veterans Award and grateful appreciation to Lieutenant Colonel James E. Whitty, U.S. Army retired, Auburn, Alabama, May 30th, 2022. Thank you. I want to remind everyone as we're giving things away today that the flowers and centerpieces of each of your table are meant for someone there to take those home, so y'all work that out amongst yourselves, but please take that home with you. At this time, we'll have another musical performance by our Auburn Memorial Day singers.
Will all veterans and current members of the U.S. Army please stand? Over hill, over dale, we will hit the dusty trail, and the army goes rolling along. In and out, hear them shout, counter-marching all about, and the army goes rolling along. For it's high, high, he in the field artillery. Count out your numbers loud and strong. 2, 3, 4, hut! 2, 3. And wherever you go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
Will all members and veterans of the U.S. Navy please stand?
Anchors voyage home.
Will veterans and current members of the Coast Guard please rise?
We're always ready for the call. We place our trust in Thee. Through howling gale and shot and shell to win our victory. Semper Paratus is our guide, our pledge, our motto too. We're always ready to or die. A Coast Guard, we fight for you.
Will any current members and veterans of the United States Air Force please rise?
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun.
Here they come, zooming to meet our thunder. Atom boys, give her the gun.
Down we dive, spouting our flame from under, off with one terrible roar. We live in fame or go down in flame, for nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
Will all current members and veterans of the U.S. Marines please stand?
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First we fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines. Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force, the United States Marines.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was great. Once again, I want to thank everybody for taking time to be with us here today for celebrating Memorial Day at this breakfast. I want to thank all of those who have participated in today's breakfast for making it a special event. And I want to remind everyone that all of you are invited immediately following to come to the Veterans Memorial Monument for memorial wreath laying ceremony, and that'll begin immediately following this. At this time, I'd like to ask everybody to please rise. And will the members of the Auburn University Naval ROTC Color Guard please retire the colors?
March. Color guard, retrieve the colors. Color guard. Regroup. Color guard, left or right. Face. Color guard, right. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you to all of our veterans. Thank you for what you've done for all of us. May we enjoy our freedom today. We'll see you at the memorial wreath laying ceremony in just a few minutes. Have a great day and God bless you.